Hey guys, how's it going? It's Bethany. For this week's video, I'm going to be talking about mental health. There are lots of stigmas around mental health. Most people are more inclined to run towards you if you have a physical problem rather than a mental problem. People are more inclined to believe you're suffering if the problem is physical rather than mental. Mental health conditions can be a result of chemical imbalances, genetics, trauma, child abuse, or emotional processing difficulties. When people think of mental health, they usually think of depression, and it's not just about being depressed. There's lots of other things that go into it and go into different conditions. It doesn't matter what age you are, mental health conditions can affect anybody. Not every person with a mental health condition is the same, and not every mental health condition is the same either, and it differs from person to person. Some mental health conditions are more easily treatable than others. It depends whether it's from a chemical imbalance or whether it's emotionally related. Not every mental health condition is treated the same way. It's not all treated through medication. It can also be treated through different treatments such as CBT, DBT, and just counselling. Each person's circumstance is different and the way they deal with their condition is different. The condition affects them in different ways. Just because you have the same condition as somebody else, it doesn't mean you're exactly the same. People seem to think that if you have a mental health condition that you can get on with your life just as normal as anybody else, but it affects you emotionally and mentally, and that takes a toll on you physically because it's a condition that literally is the brain. The brain is what's causing you to feel and act like you are. So just because it's not physical doesn't mean that you can easily carry out any normal daily activity that you would if you'd like broke your leg or your arm or suffer with back pain or anything like that. To have a mental health disorder, you don't need to be suicidal and you don't need to self-harm. Coinciding with my autism, I have high levels of anxiety. In the past, I've also suffered from depression, even though I was wrongly diagnosed up until I was 19, which was when I was diagnosed with a condition called EUPD, which is formerly known as BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. EUPD is basically like bipolar, except that rather than a chemical imbalance, which is easily treated with lithium, which is a mood stabilizer drug, EUPD is a little bit harder to treat because it's mainly done through things like DBT and CBT, but it doesn't always work for everyone. Sometimes you are put on antipsychotics, and I was on an antipsychotic called quetiapine, which I was on for only about 2 weeks. I was only on it for a trial period, but I didn't feel that it was necessary for me to go on any kind of drug, and I didn't really want to be honest. I take enough things and have enough problems. I didn't want to add to the list, but it basically stops the hallucinations, or is meant to help with that, because with EUPD it affects basically your brain and your emotions and regulating them, because you end up feeling things at like 10 times more than you would without the condition. So it's like emotions on a dramified or like an exaggerated level. So when you're overreacting to something, you actually can't help it with EUPD. That's just how you feel, and basically it can change from second to second. So you can be really happy 1 minute and then a few seconds later you can be really low, and it's really hard to know your triggers. It's often a result of maybe genetics or through past trauma or abuse. I think it was where I grew up and I got bullied a lot and things like that, and I had like eating problems and stuff like that, so I think that probably contributed it. But I was wrongly diagnosed with depression at the start of it. Then I went for a stage where I thought maybe I had bipolar, but my mood was changing a little bit too fast for bipolar. It was changing rather than like a few days at a time, like every minute, and yeah, it was quite a hard diagnostic process, but I finally got the help and I was diagnosed back in April 2016. When you look at someone with a mental health condition, you honestly don't usually see the mental health condition, you just see the person as a whole. You wouldn't notice because it's a bit like hidden disabilities. A mental health condition is hidden and you don't know, so people just think that you can be normal and act normal when inside your mind you really can't. With EUPD, it's quite often to sort of disassociate yourself from the world and see the world a little bit different. I already see the world different anyway because of my autism, so I don't think that helps things. But in like my darkest hours or times where I've had a really difficult time, I've gone through where I just sort of detach myself from the situation or just the world completely, and I end up reverting to my own little bubble. And I think it's quite easy to shut yourself out or shut other people out, even when they're trying to help with EUPD, because people don't understand it or you don't think they'll understand it. In really stressful situations with any sort of mental health condition, but especially with borderline personality disorder, you can detach yourself, like I said, and when you detach yourself, it's almost like you make yourself feel numb. So you become, rather than like your emotions changing, you almost become emotionless. Back in, I think when I first got diagnosed, I was going through a really hard time. I was depressed all the time, and then I was having highs and I was just dropping. And to cope with that, I finally just shut myself off, and ever since then I've been, I don't really have many low periods anymore. Like, I'm nothing like I used to be. I'm not really tearful anymore. In fact, I tend to do the opposite, so I'm either really happy and bubbly, or I just get really angry and irritable, or just numb completely, like I don't know what I'm feeling anymore, which is hard in itself. But I think part of it helps because it means that I'm not as an emotional or emotionally attached person as I was, so I'm not as clingy anymore unless I'm ill or going through a rough patch, but I don't usually go through those anymore. Okay guys, that's it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you click the bell so you're notified when I post a video every week or whenever I post it, because I know that I've been a bit delayed with posting recently, but there's been a lot going on, so I apologise for that. But yeah, make sure you click the bell, make sure you subscribe for more weekly videos, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, leave a comment down below telling me if you've had any experiences with mental health conditions yourself or you know of anyone who has, and I'll see you all next Monday. Bye!